Hi, my name is Miss Christy. I'm a teaching artist with the PACE program. I have the best job ever because I get to bring art lessons to you. If you need help from a grown-up, please go ahead and pause the video and ask for help, or raise your hand. And I've been bringing visual arts lessons to you, and we've talked about shapes and colors. We've talked about lines and how we can express ourselves through those shapes and lines and colors. So that's what artists do. And usually we start out with a drawing and then we move on to something else like paint. We've explored lots of subjects. And this time we're going to be talking about bodies of water and where that water meets land. Do you know what river we live close to? It's the biggest river in our country, the United States of America. It's called the Mississippi River. Have you ever heard of that? Well, when the river flows out into the Gulf of Mexico, that's called a delta, or the mouth of the river. So all of the water comes down across the land of the United States here in the middle and flows down into the place where we live. Today we're going to draw in our river delta, and then we've got something special at the end. So I want you to take your time. Teachers, if you want to pause the lesson, please feel free to do so to let students catch up. Or if you want to do variations of this lesson, you can save the end for another time. So the first thing we're going to need is a piece of white construction paper and a pencil. But then we'll also need crayons and markers. So we're going to use both of those things to represent land and water. We're going to start by building the land, but we need to draw in where our river is. So we're going to use a pencil first. So we need pencils, crayons, markers, and a piece of white construction paper. And remember, this is your artwork. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be creative and something that you made with your own hands. All right, let's get started. So I have my pencil, and I have my paper up on the wall, but you will be working probably on your desk or table. And again, take your time, and I'll show you what to do first, and then you try. Let's get started. So this piece of paper is oriented to be side to side, or what we call horizontal. Can you say that word? Horizontal. That's anything that is lined up from side to side, left to right, or east to west. If the paper was straight up and down like my pencil, this is called vertical. So we're going to start with the paper side to side, or landscape, and we're going to start here on the left side of our paper. Can you point to that? The left side of the paper? Good. Now, as you can see from these pictures, the delta is a long, winding line that looks a little bit like a wavy line, and then it comes out at the end like a fork or a fan. And our delta is special in that it forks out like this at the bottom of our state, Louisiana. You can see in these three pictures that they are a photograph from outer space. A satellite orbiting our planet took these pictures. And artists actually applied color so that you can see the land and the water. In some of the pictures, the land is red and the water is green or blue, or the land is orange. So I want you to think about that and how we're going to use those colors as contrast colors. That means that the colors are bright when they're next to each other. Oh God, why did I just go blank? Never mind. We're going to edit that part out. Did you get it? Did you get all of your different canals? There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They're almost like fingers sticking out into the Gulf. All right, so the next part is we're going to double up that line. You've probably heard me say that before, and what that means is we're going to draw another line and we're going to trace the first one that we drew. So you're going to start again on the left and watch me first and then you try. I'm just going to follow the line that I already drew. And you can see it's kind of skinny. It's no bigger than the size of my pinky. So you could put your little pinky there and measure and then start your river. And this is where the Mississippi is going to flow down into the Gulf. So go ahead and stop there at the first canals. Did you try that? These lines are called parallel lines. They're side by side, but they don't meet. And that way the water can flow all the way down to the Gulf. So you're going to keep going all the way to the end where you first drew the straight line down to the south. You're going to do the same things with the canals. You're going to double up, just like the number 11. The number 11 is a set of parallel lines. So this is where our water is going to flow. But what is on the side of the water? What is the part that we can walk on? It's called the riverbank. And that's what we're going to color in first. And we're going to use our crayons. So think about the colors of the land. We have soft browns and oranges. We have yellows and beautiful greens. So first I'm going to start with a regular green. So we are going to start with our pencil, and I want you to start on the left side of the paper, right here below the top left corner. So you're going to come down just a little bit and place your pencil there. Watch me first and then you try. We're going to do a wavy line out toward the middle of our paper and then stop. So watch me first and then you try. I'm coloring with a dark pencil so you can see, but you can draw lightly if you want to and erase later. So I'm going to go down a little bit and back up and down and up, and we're making a wavy line. And you're going to bring that wavy line down toward the middle of your paper and then stop right there. So you can see I have 1, 2, 3, 4 curves of my river. When a river does this, it's called meandering. Can you say that word? Meandering. Once you finish that line that goes out toward the middle of the paper and you stopped, then we're going to head south toward the Gulf of Mexico. So you watch me first and then you try. I'm going to go south out toward the Gulf, and then I'm gonna stop before I get to the bottom of my paper. Can you see that? I stopped right there. You go ahead and try that. Once you finish drawing your river down toward the Gulf of Mexico, then we're going to be adding the canals that come off the side. These are like a fan. So we're going to put one right here going out to the right. We're going to put another one here going out toward this corner, but not all the way. And then over here on the left side of the river is a long canal, much longer than the other ones. It goes almost to the bottom of the paper. After you finish that, did you get it? All right, we're going to move on to two more canals that are further north on the river, and they're going to go out to the right and to the left. So our delta is very special in the way that it goes out into the Gulf this way. Did you get it? Did you get all of your different canals? There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They're almost like fingers sticking out into the Gulf. All right, so the next part is we're going to double up that line. You've probably heard me say that before, and what that means is we're going to draw another line and we're going to trace the first one that we drew. So you're going to start again on the left and watch me first and then you try. I'm just going to follow the line that I already drew. And you can see it's kind of skinny. It's no bigger than the size of my pinky. So you could put your little pinky there and measure and then start your river. And this is where the Mississippi is going to flow down into the Gulf. So go ahead and stop there at the first canals. Did you try that? These lines are called parallel lines. They're side by side, but they don't meet. And that way the water can flow all the way down to the Gulf. So you're going to keep going all the way to the end where you first drew the straight line down to the south. You're going to do the same things with the canals. You're going to double up, just like the number 11. The number 11 is a set of parallel lines. So this is where our water is going to flow. But what is on the side of the water? What is the part that we can walk on? It's called the riverbank, and that's what we're going to color in first. And we're going to use our crayons. Have you ever seen the Gulf of Mexico before? Well, if you've been to the beach in Florida, then you've probably been to the Gulf of Mexico. In Alabama, Mississippi, and Louisiana, also Texas, we all share the Gulf of Mexico. Well, the rivers that flow down through our country are fresh water. They flow into the Gulf of Mexico that's salty. So it's always flowing. Every minute, every second of the day, it's flowing into the Gulf. Did you get your lines drawn yet? All right. So we're going to put our pencil away, and then we're going to use the crayons to build up our land. So the colors that I have are colors that you would actually see on the land. So it's kind of sandy brown colors and yellows and greens for the grasses and some of the plants that grow down there. So I want you to go ahead and start with a green. I want you to find all the greens in your crayon box, light green and dark green. I want you to find both yellows, if you have like a golden yellow or a regular yellow, and orange, if you have an orange and a red orange. I want you to find those colors. We're going to start with one of your greens, whatever green you have. I'm going to start with the regular green. And what we're going to do is we're going to follow along the river and create our river bank. We're going to follow along the river bank. And I want you to make little circles. We're going to create texture along the river. Can you see that? So don't go inside the river. We're going to stay on the outside of the river. And you can think of these as marsh grasses. So while you do this, I'm going to talk to you about rivers and other bodies of water and what's going on with them. So you just keep coloring and making your little circles and creating that texture. And I'm going to talk to you about some of the other rivers that you may know about. So we live in Lafayette, and we have a river in our city called the Vermillion River. And the Vermillion River flows out into the Gulf also. But it goes into a different area called the Vermillion Bay. Have you ever heard of a bay before? Well, a bay is usually, you can see lots of boats out there, and it's a area of water that's partly surrounded by land. Can you see how I'm coloring on both sides of the river? You keep doing that all the way down to the end and leave that little space in between for the water. Keep going. So there are two major rivers in America, and the Mississippi is one of them. And it's the longest river, being almost 4,000 miles. It's 3,902 miles long. That's right, it's a long, long river. The other large river in America is in California, and it's called the Sacramento San Joaquin River. And it looks very, very different from our own river. And I have some pictures here to show you. It doesn't come out to the Pacific Ocean the same way our river flows out into the Gulf. It's more spread out and flows into a big bay. So when you're done with the first color, and you can see I've traced all along my river with one color, I'm going to come back with my other green and go over it a little bit more. So you do that too. And if you want to move on to orange or yellow, we're going to mix in those colors together. So go ahead and take your orange if you want to and color in that land. So this is where we could actually walk along the river. This is where the grasses are, and maybe even some buildings where people work and take care of the river delta. See how those colors blend together? And they also make the texture show up a lot more. Do you know that word texture? Do you remember what that means when something looks like it has texture? Well, that's how something looks like it feels. If you were to touch it, what would it feel like? There are rivers all over the world, and they've been mapped by scientists called cartographers. And if you were to go online and find a website, Grasshopper Geography, you would see these beautiful maps that this artist and cartographer created. His name is Robert Zooks, and he created these maps of just our rivers all over the world. And what he did was, instead of putting in the land and the roads and the buildings, he put in just the rivers. And you can see in this one that the Mississippi River is in pink. And that entire stretch of pink is what flows down into the Gulf of Mexico in the state where we live in Louisiana. And these are some of the other pieces of artwork that he made. He considers himself to be a GIS artist. And GIS stands for Geographic Information Systems. So just like your parents might have GPS on their phone or in their car, he maps those things out and uses them to create this artwork. He assigns a color to each river system. Have you ever heard anyone say that before? That it's a river system? No, well, it's called that because there are lots and lots of tiny little rivers that connect to the big rivers. They're called streams and tributaries, and they flow down the land and down toward the coast, wherever they are. And there are river deltas all over the world. Are you still coloring your landforms? So I'm going to use a little bit of yellow now. And this, you can kind of think of this as the beach, or the more like the shoreline. So as the rivers flow down toward the ocean or sea where they're flowing, they carry soil and little bits of plants and rock. And as it's flowing down through the country and cities and states where they are, they're picking up, the river is picking up these little pieces and it washes them out. And that's how we end up with land that grows. Did you know that land can grow just like we do? Well, it's because of those rivers. Those rivers carry all that soil down to the bottom where the mouth is, and it creates new land. Okay, so we're almost ready for the next part, and it's the most exciting part because we're going to use marker and we're going to create our water with the blue marker. So I'm going to start up here and I'm going to make that water flow. And I want you to trace it all along to the end. And you can kind of put the marker on its side a little bit to make a wider mark, but you don't have to. But what I want you to do is I want you to draw line after line after line. Feel that river flowing down into the ocean. Every second of every day, that water is flowing down, and flowing down. And that's what we're doing with the marker. We're making that water flow. And get all your little tributaries. Until you fill in all the white. There. Is your river flowing? Keep making those lines. And once you've filled in the river, we're going to put in the Gulf of Mexico. And the way I want you to do that is kind of the same way. You're going to create lines of blue. And you could just draw in your waves of the Gulf. And don't scribble scratch. We're creating water here. We're creating a texture of water. So we want to just go side to side. Side to side. With what kind of line is this? Wavy line. Very good. All right. Keep going. Create that water. So we're going to go down the river and out into the sea. Down and out into the sea. Keep going. And we're not trying to fill up the paper. We're just trying to make those wavy lines. You see the wavy lines? Keep making those wavy lines side to side. So I have another picture here of the Mississippi Delta, and you can actually see New Orleans in this picture. Can you see it up at the top? And you can see how the river flows through New Orleans and then it keeps going south until it gets to the Gulf of Mexico. And that's what we're drawing in right now. Now that we've filled in all of our water, teachers, you can put this aside and save this for a rainy day inside recess or some time that you want to fill up with a fun art project. And you'll need like a little Dixie cup or just a little tiny container of water. And instead of using brushes, we're going to use our finger to paint. Now, we have washable markers. So what would happen if we applied water to the blue in our river? Do you want to find out? Okay, so you don't need a lot of water. You just need a tiny, tiny bit. See? Just a little bit. And you're going to run your finger over the water. Now your finger will be blue, but since it's a washable marker, now mine is up on the wall, so it's going to want to drip. So I'm being really careful. I'm going to flow all the way down to the Gulf. So you can see that just that little bit of water is starting to move. Oops, see, there's a drip. And it's okay, because what happens is the crayon that's there is acting as a wax resist. And so when you paint the blue over it or you put the water over the top of it, it's not going to change your landform. And the water is just going to be able to flow. So you go ahead and try that. I've almost finished filling in the water, and I want you to remember to try and get in between, in those little places between the landforms. So this is a place where the freshwater and saltwater biomes mix, and it's called the wetlands. You can see some of my drips there. Can kind of move those around. I want to thank you for joining me today for this art project. I had a lot of fun with you, and I hope you did too. I want to encourage you to make art every day, even if it's just a little doodle or if you make a big drawing, and share it with us. You can send your artwork to us through our website at the Acadiana Center for the Arts.org, or you can ask your parent or teacher to share it on the class Facebook page or just with your family. If you get the chance to, try to visit one of the rivers near us. Ask someone to take you there so that you can see what they look like. What color is the water? What color is the land? So enjoy the rest of your day, and I can't wait to see you next time.